What's up, everybody? This is Franchise Play, aka Brian Mazik, the sports video game journalist, coming to you with the recap for UFC 182. A little bit of EA Sports UFC playing in the background. You know what we do. But, so, obviously, we're going to talk about the main event for sure. Jon Bones Jones defending his light heavyweight championship again, and I would say convincingly beating Daniel Cormier, right? So I'm gonna get to that, but let's talk about some of the other stuff that happened in the whole entire event period. Saturday night in Vegas, UFC 182. The results: Alexis Dufresne against Amarian Renault in a women's bantamweight fight. Alexis, her name is the Sneaky Zebra. She wasn't all that sneaky in this fight. She missed weight, first of all, for second UFC fight by 3 whole pounds. But that exercise did not help her because Renault looked like she was in the octagon, but basically a complete amateur. She won by unanimous decision, but to be quite honest, that fight probably should have been stopped. She hit Dufresne with so many right hands, it was actually disturbing to sit there and watch it. I'm just not a major fan of, seeing, the woman get the blood beat out of her face like that. That was just really kind of whatever. But it was really disturbing because it was clearly a situation where, she was overmatched. And when you got a fight that's overmatched, to me, what I think is once it's clear that the person doesn't have a way to actually win the fight anymore, that's when I think a fight should be stopped. Because it was clear there was no way in the world Dufresne was going to win that fight. So, I don't know. I thought it should have been stopped. Omari Akhmadov against Mats Nielsen. I hope I said that correct. But this was a weird fight because Akhmadov came out like a house of fire in the first few, minutes of the first round. He looked like he was looking for an early finish. He didn't get it. And he was tired, I would say, from the second round. For the second and third round, he was tired. But he was able to continue to secure takedowns, and Nielsen just wasn't active enough with his opponent being tired, and it looked like he had more energy. So Akhmadov won by unanimous decision based off of his strong first round and some timely takedowns. In the next fight, Evan Dunham against Rodrigo Dam. Now, this fight was one-sided as well. Evan Dunham's not normally looked at as a premier striker, but he looked like one against Dom on Saturday. From the early moments of the first round, it was clear that he was the quicker and a more sophisticated striker. Dom, at the end of the fight, Dom tried to bait him into a slugfest because at this point he knew he had lost the fight, but I think he was almost kind of trying to sell himself as a action-packed kind of a guy. And I can kind of understand why he might have been trying to do that because he could very well be cut because he's lost 3 straight fights. 8 of his last 12 he's lost. He's 34 years old, so it's not looking real good for Mr. Dom. The next fight was a heavyweight bout. Sean the Savage Jordan took on Jared Killer Cannonier. I actually had picked Cannonier to win this fight because with Jordan, a lot of times he's a big, strong guy, but it's either feast or famine with him a lot. He's either going to get stopped or he's going to stop you. In this particular night, he stopped Cannonier. Cannonier had some good movement too. I thought early in the first round, I thought he was moving good. I thought he was trying to set some stuff up, but he got hit with a punch high on the head. It looked like it damaged his equilibrium more than it hurt him. But in the heavyweight division, once a guy gets hurt, usually there is no recovery. The big guy's going to pounce and is going to pound him out, and that's exactly what happened in this fight. Sean Jordan ended up getting the first round stoppage. This was Cannonier's UFC debut. He actually repairs airplanes for the aviation department, and he put his job on hold for 2 months to have this fight. And he had to do GoFundMe.org just to fund his training. So this was kind of a little bit of a bitter loss for him. We'll see if he gets another opportunity in the UFC. The next fight was kind of crazy. It was a good fight though. Marcus the Bama Beast Brimage against Cody No Love Garbrandt. Garbrandt, I was impressed with him. It was his UFC debut, but Brimage was winning the fight. He was winning the fight. He was outstriking Garbrandt. Garbrandt has to work on his defense. He really leaves his hands down a lot. And if Brimage was a harder striker, he might have got stopped. Instead, Brimage ends up getting stopped by Garbrandt because with 10 seconds, well, more like about 15, 20 seconds left in the fight, he got way too comfortable, got caught. Garbrandt's a big-time puncher. Brimage got caught by a big shot, got hurt, ended up getting stopped. It was not like, some people might get mad at Herb Dean for stopping the fight, but with only 10 seconds left especially, but Brimage was like falling and flopping all over the place. You know what I mean? So once a guy is hurt like that, it's almost like you kind of got to stop. You can't say, oh, well, it's only 10 seconds left. But I think if he gets through that round, he probably won the fight. And so you know that sucks. He going to be mad at himself, for real. And Garbrandt's only 23 years old, so I think he's got real upside for sure. He actually kind of reminds me a little bit of Michael McDonald, not the singer, the fighter. It reminds me a little bit of him. So that's it. I mean, we'll see what goes on next for him. He's got a little bit of work to do, but I think he has a bright future. The next fight was Danny Last Call Castillo against Paul the Irish Dragon Felder. Man, let me tell you something. Paul Felder looked like he was ready for a title shot in this fight. I mean, this was only his second UFC fight. And yeah, he was only fighting Danny Castillo, who I think is a pretty good fighter, but he looked so dominant. It was crazy. He finished the fight with the most explosive stoppage of the entire night. Only the third time in UFC history have you seen a guy win a fight on a spinning back fist. Shoney Carter and John McDessie were the other two. He caught my man, Danny Castillo, with a nasty spinning back fist that sent Castillo out cold. I mean, it was banana cakes. It was really a nasty shot. And but it wasn't just like, oh, this one shot came out of nowhere. He was literally beating Castillo up the entire fight. And I was actually surprised because I actually thought that Danny Castillo was going to win this fight. I did not expect to see Felder look the way he did. He had been training with Donald Cerrone, and you could really tell because his stand-up Muay Thai skills were on point. Moving to the main card, Hector Lombard took on Josh Burkman. Josh Burkman hadn't actually been in the UFC in over 6 years. He lost his last 3 fights in the UFC, left the promotion, and built up a nice little string of fights outside of the UFC. So he came back, but boy did he get a draw in his comeback. He fought Hector Lombard. Now, Lombard easily won this fight, I would say. But I felt that Burkman at least did well enough to say, hey, yeah, I still belong in the UFC. I mean, Lombard's one of the best fighters at 170 pounds there is. So, but he's just too big and too strong, man. When they got inside and they clinched, Lombard was able to kind of have his way, throwing him around. Early on, Burkman was catching Lombard with a nice counter right hand, but Lombard made the adjustment. And his athleticism and speed and punching accuracy really kind of took over. And by the third round, he was close to stopping Burkman, and he had taken over the entire fight. So it was an impressive win for Lombard, and he has to be very close to getting a title shot at 170. I guess you have to look and say somebody like Roy McDonald is ahead of him in the line, but that many people can't be ahead of Lombard at this point. The next fight was Kyoji Horiguchi versus Louis Goodnight Gaudenot. I finally think that there's a flyweight outside of John Dodson in the UFC who looks as if he could potentially give Demetrius Johnson a good run. Horiguchi used some sick striking skills. I mean, he hits from all different angles. He's fast. I don't think he's quite as fast as Mighty Mouse, which they were almost kind of implying during the UFC broadcast. I wouldn't go that far, but he is definitely fast. And he's very unpredictable, which makes it seem quicker to me. Gaudenot deserves some credit, though, for taking some nasty shots and still pressing forward, but he pretty much got beat up. Because Horiguchi is only 24 years old, that makes it even more impressive. I don't think he's quite ready for Demetrius Johnson yet. I think maybe 2-3 more wins, maybe. Maybe he beats somebody like Dodson. Maybe he beats Benavidez or something like that. And then he gets that shot. But he's definitely on his way. Gaudenot, after the fight, was acting like he thought he won. I'm like, dude, what fight was you in? Because the one I saw, it wasn't close, really. So, I don't know. Whatever. The next fight was Brad Tavares against Nate the Great Marquardt. The fans were booing this fight. I mean, they were booing. And, I mean, they were booing kind of hard. it wasn't that bad of a fight, I didn't think. You know, people were just, a lot of times crowds are bloodthirsty, and this was more of a technical thing, but there was some hard strikes and some good takedown and grappling sessions, aspects of the fight. Tavares has improved a lot. I mean, his jab and his leg kicks were really good. I've never liked Marquardt's stand-up game anyway, and I thought he should have worked harder to get the takedown. I'm not sure it would have mattered. I think he still would have lost. He lost a unanimous decision in this fight. So, like I said, I'm not sure that it would have mattered, but it would have been better for him to really kind of chase the takedowns a little bit more, but he didn't do that and more or less got beat up and lost the unanimous decision. The co-feature was one of my favorite fighters. And it's weird that he's one of my favorite fighters because when I first saw him, the first time I started watching Cowboy Donald Cerrone, I was like, you know, this guy's kind of good, but something about him puts me off. Now, this dude is like that. He is one of my favorite fighters to watch. He has now won, I believe it's 7 fights in a row because he defeated Miles Fury Jury, and he did it easy. You understand? Easy. Jury was 15-0 coming into this fight, undefeated professional, and had pretty much manhandled people, and I don't think it even had a tough fight. Well, from the very first round, it was clear that this was going to be a different situation. He almost got submitted via omoplata, almost got submitted in the first round via rear naked choke. I mean, Cerrone threw about 9 million different submission opportunities, and I mean, Cerrone, the diversity of his game is sick, right? He finishes most of his fights with submissions, but most of the time those are set up by the hard strikes from his Muay Thai skills. And tonight, Saturday night was no exception. He was really, really on his game. And at the end of the fight, because he had hit he had hit Jury with a really big head kick in the 3rd round, but at the end of the fight, Cerrone let out some frustration because Jury had beaten Diego Sanchez, which is a training partner of Cerrone, and he kind of had talked some trash in the post-fight interview, and Cerrone didn't like it. And I think what we saw at the end of the fight was kind of him letting off some of that frustration. Jury's on his back after Cerrone throws him to the mat, and you've seen guys take little kicks at the butt or the thigh area of the fighter while they're down, trying to make them get up. Man, Donald Cerrone was backing up and cocking his leg like he was Robbie Gold or something. Like he was trying to kick a 60-yard field goal. It kept kicking Fury. I keep calling him Fury. He kept kicking Jury like in the butt and in the legs, like get up, get up, get. I mean, it was pretty street. It was actually pretty street. It was actually pretty funny. You couldn't help but see it. And during the broadcast, Joe Rogan says it's like he's trying to kick a soccer ball to the moon. And I would say that was probably an accurate assessment. It was pretty funny. But in the main event, Jon Bones Jones, come on, man. Come on. Come on. I mean, really, just come on. I mean, this guy, if he's not the best in the world right now, who is? I mean, who really at this point can say that? Who can we point to and say they're better than Jon Jones? I mean, to me, the only person, and I say person for a reason, who can even say they're in the conversation is Ronda Rousey. And the reason why I say that is because Ronda has been as dominant as anybody ever, period. I mean, we can talk about her the competition level and how there's not, anybody, no woman quite yet on her level. We can talk about that, but the fact of the matter is she's beating everybody there is to beat, and she's beating them pretty convincingly. But all of that said, gee whiz, look at Jon. I mean, he's fighting Daniel Cormier, a 2-time Olympian. Most people would call him the best wrestler in the UFC. And yeah, we know Jon Jones came into the fight with a 12-inch reach advantage. We know all of that, right? So we expect him. Well, we shouldn't actually expect him because we know how he does. But you would think maybe if you got a 5-inch height advantage, a 12-inch reach advantage, he's going to try to use his length and keep a distance. No, that's not what Jon Jones does. Jon Jones goes in and he out-wrestles the wrestler. I mean, coming into the fight, Daniel Cormier had never been taken down. Well, John Jones takes him down 3 times in the fight. And then Cormier couldn't secure a takedown against John Jones until the last minute of the final of the 5th round. It's amazing. It was a really amazing. You know, some of the crowd started to get a little bit antsy towards the end, but from a technical standpoint, to realize what John Jones did, staying in the pocket and beating a guy at his own game, which he's done before, was absolutely amazing. I mean, up next, you pretty much are probably looking at Jones fighting the winner of Anthony Rumble Johnson and Alexander Gustafsson, which I think Gustafsson is still the guy that's most dangerous for Jones. We saw what happened in the first fight. But for right now, we just really need to appreciate the fact that if you saw this, you're watching the greatest mixed martial artist ever. That's what John Jones is. It's amazing. So that's it. That is the UFC 182 recap. I'm going to try to bring these to you guys after every UFC and the bigger fights and the WWE pay-per-views like we used to do. You know what we're talking about this year. Consistency, quality, community. And I'm paying attention to the views and I'm paying attention to the likes. I'm going to give everybody what they want. I appreciate y'all listening. Y'all subscribe, follow. Peace.